Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to my channel. We're going into that fun time of year where we're having a little bit of Halloween. We're going into Thanksgiving and maybe even touching on Christmas a little. You know what they say, Happy Hallothankmus or something like that. I'm starting off by showing you what I made for dinner on Sunday. I had it in my mind that I wanted to make some Stroganoff meatballs, and I was bound and determined I was going to make that happen with items I had in my pantry. So first I am getting some croutons and a small amount of breadcrumbs that I had in my jar into a bowl, and I'm going to soak them with some milk so that they get nice and soft. I added a couple of eggs as well. And I just beat them and got the yolks broken up and got that all incorporated and let it sit for a little while until it was nice and mushy. When these crunchy croutons are all nice and soft, then I'm going to come back and add my ground beef. Once I had my ground beef and my breadcrumb mixture all mixed together, then I just got to work making my meatballs. You can make your meatballs any size you want as long as you make them all about the same size. I decided to make ours about the size of ping pong balls. And of course you can make meatballs in the air fryer, in the crock pot, in a skillet. You can make them in the oven, which was what I was doing. I just wanted to be able to put them in a pan and put them in the oven with the timer on and go about doing some other things. And I am just putting them in a roasting pan. I inherited this roasting pan when my dad passed away, and he had gotten it from my grandma. So it is a very well-loved roasting pan and has been around for many, many years. And you can tell by looking at it that it's been used and loved well. And while I have a little time doing other things, I'm just putting some hot water into a quart-sized mason jar and dropping some beef-flavored bouillon cubes inside. And I'm just going to let them sit and dissolve in that hot water. And I'm just going to use them as a base for my gravy packets, which I found in my pantry, and they're going in our meatballs. Sometimes on a Sunday I like to make a dessert, and this was the day before Halloween, so I am making some brownies, and I'm just going to frost them and then add some Halloween sprinkles and candy corns. I just prepared this brownie mix as the package directed. I had enough room in my oven for 2 pans, so along with those meatballs, I'm going to bake these brownies right alongside. They needed to cook on the same temperature and for about the same time, so it worked out just fine. When those meatballs and brownies were just about ready to come out of the oven, I got this bag of mashed potatoes out of the fridge. These are leftovers from a dinner that we had on a different night. So I am just going to doctor them back up and then put them in the microwave and heat them up. Since we had all of these mashed potatoes left over, I decided to have our stroganoff meatballs on top of mashed potatoes instead of pasta. I also just heated up a couple cans of corn that I added some butter and some seasoning to. Now comes the stroganoff part. So I didn't have all of the ingredients to make your traditional stroganoff, so I'm just kind of getting as close as I possibly can. And like I said, I'm just going to add my gravy packets right into this jar of beef bouillon, and I'm going to shake it up really good inside the jar until all of those particles are nice and blended. This made it super easy to make up some gravy for these meatballs, as well as keeping cleanup pretty quick. I didn't have any cream or sour cream or anything like that, or any mushrooms, so I am using some cream of mushroom soup, and I did have one can that was cream of chicken, but that was okay. I just decided to roll with it, and it did give it a pretty good flavor, so that was a happy accident. Once I had my soups and gravy in the pot, I just gave it a gentle stir to try to get most of those lumps out. I never get the lumps out, but that's okay because in our house we call them lumps of love. I put the lid back on and the meatballs went back in the oven for 20 more minutes. Then voila, it was time to eat. Time to fluff up those mashed potatoes. If you wear glasses like I do, you know that I just went blind for a few minutes with all that steam. But these meatballs sure did turn out delicious. Making our plates was super easy and quick because all I had to do was put a scoop of corn on the plate and a scoop of those mashed potatoes, and I just made a little well in the middle so that I could just lay some of those meatballs and gravy right down inside. Yum, this might have been one of my favorite dinners of the week. Fast forward a few hours later and our brownies are completely cooled and it's time to get them frosted up. Originally, this was to be a different dessert, one that had a cookie layer and a brownie layer, but I didn't have enough eggs for that. This is just kind of what's been happening in our house lately, just being out of this or out of that. So I just decided, we're just gonna do a pan of brownies and call it good. I had so many Halloween intentions, but I didn't count on my dad passing away or just having a whole feeling of yuck come over me every now and then out of the blue. But, you know, I feel like we do what we can when we can, and that sometimes we're just too hard on ourselves. And besides, this pan of brownies was really cute, and it was festive, and it was our way that we celebrated the Halloween season, and it was just fine. I really feel sometimes that I put too much pressure on myself, and during my grieving period, I've allowed myself to just do the best I can. And it's made me realize that this is how it should always be, every day in my life. And with that being said, this is how our brownies turned out. They were very delicious. Of course, I mean, how can you go wrong with chocolate on chocolate? And speaking of Halloween, on Monday we went trick-or-treating with our family. We had so much fun with our kids, and especially our little grandkids on Halloween. Dinner, of course, was fast food. On Tuesday, I worked a 12-hour shift, and Bill made dinner for him and the boys. They had these steak medallions and some mashed potatoes. Wednesday, I wanted some Mexican food, but I knew it had to be something easy because honestly, I was just whooped. So I picked up the fixins to make taco salads. The guys at my house like to have their taco salads with Doritos. I personally like tortilla chips, but have you seen the price of chips these days? I mean, at $5 a bag, I'm gonna have Doritos as well. And I'm just adding some avocado on the side. And yes, I will eat a whole avocado by myself. I just love them. I also had some fresh tomatoes on the side. I had my husband pick up some gravy from his favorite Mexican restaurant. It's also a restaurant that my son works at. If you're from around here and you know my family, you probably know where this is, and we just love this gravy that they have. So we brought a pint of that home and then added that on our taco salads. I had a little bit of sour cream, and then I just topped everything with some shredded cheese, and that was a very quick, simple, and really tasty dinner. I always like a little something cold and vanilla after I have spicy Mexican food. So sometimes that could be vanilla ice cream, but this night I had some vanilla Greek yogurt and I just put a little sprinkle of cinnamon on top of that and added some blueberries, and that was our dessert for that night. Thursday morning when I woke up, I knew I was already going to be tired when I got out of work, so I made a Walmart grocery order and picked it up when I got out at 5. I added a couple of pizzas to my order so that I could bring them home and easily deconstruct them. I removed all of the pepperoni and added some extra cheese, and then I just added our toppings back onto these pizza crusts, basically. That's what we call frozen pizza in our house, but obviously we are just doctoring up frozen pizzas. I'm adding some Canadian bacon and some pepperoni and some chopped up Vidalia onions. I did make a second pizza off camera, which was only pepperoni. And I made sure that these pizzas were loaded with pepperoni and Canadian bacon just to make them super yummy. These are the Jack's thin crust pizza and they're not very filling. So I made sure that we had some cheesy breadsticks and a salad to go along with it. And with all the extra toppings that I added to these pizzas, I knew that my sons were going to have full tummies. These pizzas turned out really ooey gooey and delicious, and we had lots of extra Canadian bacon and pepperoni left over for other recipes. And as my husband always says, these breadsticks were scrum-delicious. Now watch as I gracefully handle these cheesy breadsticks. Just kidding, they were super hot and I burnt myself, but they were so delicious, it was worth it. Now that was a fast and easy dinner that everybody enjoyed. Okay, it's still Thursday, but I'm getting Friday's dinner ready ahead of time. I have these 2 packages of London broil that I am putting in my crock pot liner. I'm going to add all of my ingredients right into this bag, which I have on my zipper bag holder. I was just giving it a shot to see if it would work with a crock pot liner, and it kind of did and it kind of didn't, but it did the trick. I added some little potatoes that I had soaked and rinsed right into the mesh, right inside the mesh bag. I tossed in some carrots that I chopped into huge pieces but didn't peel. I did wash them up. I just wasn't feeling like doing all that chopping. This was about 8:30 p.m. when I was putting this together. I added my own seasoning blend of garlic powder, salt, pepper, and onion powder, kind of like a all-purpose seasoning, and I just twisted the top and put the zipper tie on. Oh, I did add the rest of that Vidalia onion that I used on our pizzas earlier too. I got my crock pot out of the closet and put it on the counter so that in the morning before work I could just throw it all together. And just like magic, dinner will be ready when we get home. Fast forward to 5:30 and we were all home and ready to eat, and these carrots were fork tender. I'm just checking out the potatoes, and making sure that everything was good to go, and it definitely was. I always refer to crock-pot cooking as kitchen magic because you just throw your ingredients into the pot and presto blammo, you have a delicious meal with very little effort. Especially with something like roast and veggies. And I am just putting a little bit of steak sauce on top of my meat, and our dinner is served. For us, the first few days of October means it's time to transition from Halloween to Thanksgiving. And so Mr. Turkey came out of his box and took center stage on our dining room table. Since we aren't hosting Thanksgiving this year, I plan to showcase some Thanksgiving food recipes throughout the month of November. And our actual Thanksgiving dinner will probably be featured after Thanksgiving because I always like to upload in real time. But we're getting pretty excited around here about all the yummy recipes that are on the way. On Saturday, Bill and I had a date night because as much as we love our family and friends, it was time for some us time. And it's been a pretty busy week. As always, I want to thank you for stopping by my channel, and if you like what you saw, please consider hitting the subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. Bye for now.